Hello and welcome to Crouton Tools Basic Instruction. If you've installed your Crouton Tools program, the first thing you should do is run your video toaster system. The video toaster system should always be run first so it has priority in memory. Today I'll be working on both the 2000 and 4000 computer. For right now I'm working on the 4000 computer. Once your video toaster has booted up, select the Setup button or the F10 key and move to the Preferences screen. From here, select Project and load the Crouton Tools project. If you don't see it, you may need to select a new disk drive, then look for the Crouton Tools project and select Load. I've already loaded Crouton Tools, so I'll move back to the switcher. Next, move to the last bank of effects you have in your particular system. For a 4000, Bank I. For a 2000, Bank G. You should see two new effects, Execute Tool and Crouton Tools. Select on Crouton Tools twice or select on once and select the spacebar. You should be moved to Workbench, and a little window should be placed on your Workbench screen called Toolkit. This is from Toaster Toolkit Macro Effects. Next, double-click on the Crouton Tools drawer that you'll find on your hard drive, and then double-click on the Crouton Tools Startup icon. From here, you'll be moved through the various copyright screens. A keyboard equivalent to quickly move through these screens is down arrow. Next, you will be presented with the Crouton Tools main menu. For right now, we need to configure a program to use with Crouton Tools, so let's select on Configure. From this main Crouton Tools Configure menu, we have the option of moving to other Crouton Tools programs or moving into the Configure section. From here, we can configure programs to be used with Crouton Tools. Crouton Tools needs to know the location of these programs so that it can find them and use them for you. To configure a program with Crouton Tools is simple. Select on the name of the program that you own and find that particular program. I'm going to select on Volume, select the volume that particular program is located on, find the drawer that particular program is located in, and select on that program's name, then select OK. Let's do the same thing with Image Master. Select on the button, select Volume, select on the volume the program is in, find the drawer that particular program is in, and select on the program itself. I'm going to go off tape and configure several programs for us to use with this example. Okay, I've configured several programs for us to use with this example on this particular page. Let's select the More button and move to page 2. On page 2, there's also more programs that we could configure for our use, and there is also a group of 15 user configurable program selections. Each one of these can configure to a program which I haven't listed in any of the configure sections that you have in Crouton Tools. For example, let's say you own a paint program that I haven't listed in the configure section. You could easily configure it on, let's say, user number 6 by selecting user 6, finding the program, and selecting OK. The same would be true if you had a word processing program that I haven't listed in the configure section. You could say assign that to user number 9. Throughout the program, you will see the user selections, and you can load those just as easy as you can load other programs. Let's select on More and move to one last section of Configure. And here's where we can configure Toaster Toolkit, Toaster Vision, or T-Rex Professional, as well as Toaster Genlock and the video toaster itself. If you make a mistake during configure, you don't need to worry about it. It won't damage anything. For example, if we select on the wrong program, all you need to do is reselect on it then select Cancel, which will erase the entry, then merely reselect the right program. Once you've configured the programs you need to, select the Done button, and we'll move back to the main Configure menu screen. From here, let's move into the Programs section of Crouton Tools by selecting the Programs button. From this section, we can control and load most toaster-related programs. But first, let's select the Switcher button to make sure that all is well and AREX is running in your system. This should move you to the switcher. If you select the Crouton Tools button, it should move you back to Crouton Tools. This can give you an easy way to communicate back and forth between Crouton Tools programs and the switcher. It's important to note, however, that when you move manually, this is when you select a button to move from program to program. You should select on a clear spot in that program before you select on any other buttons to make that program active. So as I move back to Crouton Tools, before I select anything, I should select in a clear area. If I get in this habit, I won't accidentally leave my cursor on a program behind me somewhere. Each one of these buttons represents one of the programs that we could configure in the Configure section. Selecting on the More button moves us to the second bank of those particular buttons. So for example, if we wanted to start up Profils immediately from Crouton Tools, we select the Profils button. We're moved to Profils, we can create a profil, save it out to RAM, quit the program, instantly be moved back into Crouton Tools, and use the file we just saved. If we select the Back button, we'll be moved back to the other selections of programs that we could configure using the Configure section. Remember the 15 user configurable programs? Here they are in a pop-up menu. If I select and hold down with the left mouse, I can then select and run any program that I configured in the User Configure section. All buttons in Crouton Tools actually select when they're released. So I can hold down on a particular button. If I've noticed I've selected the wrong one, I can slide off that button and release without having the operation fulfill. If I get in the habit of selecting a button and holding on to it and using release as my start, in this way I can select a button, make sure I've got the right one by visually looking at it, and then releasing as I need to. If I've selected the wrong one, again slide off the button and release. Using the Program section makes it extremely easy for me to be working with the switcher and decide I need to operate another program by merely selecting Crouton Tools, moving to the Program section, finding that particular operation and running it. I can save immense amount of time where I normally would be out on my workbench, sorting around, fumbling, looking for particular drawers, or using the Control-Alt keys to move me to the workbench to find those particular programs. By using Crouton Tools, I can easily move to those programs, move back to Crouton Tools, and use an option or a function for that particular program. Okay, let's quit Brilliance and move back to Crouton Tools. Generally, if you start a program using Crouton Tools, if you exit the program, it should move you back to the Crouton Tools screen, making it easy again to find another program or move to the switcher, etc. Let's move down here and explore some of the toaster control buttons. These buttons allow us to select main and preview within the toaster. For example, let's say we wanted DV2 to be in main. If we select that, it will flip to the toaster and put DV2 in main. If we wanted DV1 in preview, we can go like that and select it in preview. We can also do a take by selecting take, which will move us back and forth between the two buses we've selected. Let's move next to the Images section of Crouton Tools by selecting the Images button. This will move us to the Image Control section of Crouton Tools. It defaults to the Art Department or Ad Pro page. For this particular example, why don't we move to Image Effects and we'll use that particular program. To do this, we'll select the Image Effects button located up here in the top right. As you will notice, here's our user selection. If we hold down, we could still open any of the 15 programs we decided to configure using the User Configure section. Here is the Image Effects Start icon. So for example, let's select on Image Effects, and we should move into Image Effects. From here we can easily move back to Crouton Tools. As we need to, we can easily move back to Image Effects by selecting the Screen button, which moves us to Image Effects. We can move back to Crouton Tools, we can move to the switcher, we can move back to Crouton Tools and to Image Effects easily with one button. These tools work directly with the toaster and Image Effects. These tools work with the buffer, which we'll discuss in a minute, and Image Effects. And these tools here work directly with Image Effects. The reason there is a difference between these type of tools and these type of tools is that in future editions of Crouton Tools you'll be able to grab these buttons and move them around from screen to screen to create your own interface. Moving back to the direct Image Effects buttons, let's say it's time to load an image into Image Effects, so we'll select the Load button. This will bring us to Image Effects and open up the load register so we can find our file. As you'll notice, it loaded the graphic into Image Effects and then moved us back to Crouton Tools. Crouton Tools is now waiting for us to decide how we're going to use that image or how we're going to process it. For right now, I'm going to use Image Effects like a paint system, so I'll select on Image Effects Screen to move back to the Image Effects screen. From here, I'm going to select on a cursor and cut, and I'm going to cut this out as a brush real quick. Okay, and let's paste it down here. Okay, let's say we wanted to do a rub through now using Toaster Paint. We cut this brush out in full screen so we could see what we're doing. Now let's use Toaster Paint to do a rub through. So we'll move back to Crouton Tools, and down here in the Image Effects section you can see 2 TP for Toaster Paint, so we'll select 2 Toaster Paint. You'll notice it went to Image Effects. It's now saving the image out for us. Moving to the toaster. And it's loading that particular race graphic in for us so that we can use it in Toaster Paint. Okay, let's slide over here so you can see that we'd pasted that in. And we need to do a rub through so that this looks like a realistic paste. I'm going to go off tape and do a rub through, and then we'll move from there. Okay, the rub through is completed. Let's move back and move the image back into Image Effects. So we'll move back to the switcher, go back to Crouton Tools, and now let's go up to this new set of buttons, Toaster to Image Effects. We have DV1, DV2, and Toaster Paint to Image Effects. So we can take the image that's in Toaster Paint and move it to Image Effects. There we go. Now, a lot of these things you could do by hand, but it would take quite a bit longer, and you'd have to remember where you saved them and what you called them, etc., etc. This is all happening with one quick, easy button. Okay, let's move back to Crouton Tools, and let's discuss what's happening when we transfer an image from one program to the other. Crouton Tools uses a safety net of sorts called the temporary working buffer, or even buffer. This buffer provides us with a safe haven for image files that we're transferring from one program to the other. Whenever we select to move an image from one program to the other, it is actually moving into the buffer first and then moving into the program from there. The reason why Crouton Tools does this is to protect ourselves from error. Let's say we were working on an image in Toaster Paint and we decide to send it to Image Effects, but Image Effects wasn't running. Normally we could possibly lose our image, but since Crouton Tools sends the image first to the buffer, then tries to send it to Image Effects, it's always stored in the buffer for us to use. Since it's sitting in the buffer, we could easily then start up Image Effects and then send it from the buffer to Image Effects. Let's create a little example that will help us illustrate that. For example, let's tell Crouton Tools to send the image that's in DV1 to Image Effects. Now, as you noticed, the image that was in DV1 is now moved into Image Effects. Okay, let's say we experimented around with this image and we did a couple of things and we moved on a little too fast and we got to the point where we couldn't undo a particular stamp or draw feature that we used. Normally we'd be in trouble because we only have one undo. But if we go back to Crouton Tools and say, I want what was in the buffer to go back to Image Effects, we'll say Buffer to Image Effects. It will now load that buffer, that safety net that we had out there, and it will load the original image back in for us. That's just one example of how to use the temporary buffer. Let's move back to Crouton Tools. We can also use the temporary buffer in low memory operations. For example, let's use the tool selector to open up some buffer tools for us. Let's pull down to Toast Buffer and release. And let's select again and pull down to Buffer Tools and release. This opened up several new tools for us to control the buffer with. For example, DV1 to buffer, DV2 to buffer, and Toaster Paint to buffer. Well, what's the difference between these buttons and these buttons? Toaster to Image Effects sends whatever's in DV1, DV2, or Toaster Paint directly to Image Effects, whereas DV1 to buffer, DV2 to buffer, and Toaster to Paint to buffer send whatever is in those particular parameters only to the buffer. So for example, let's say we were in a configuration where we had low memory and we needed to send an image from DV1 to Image Effects. But when we tried to run Image Effects, we didn't have enough memory. We'll simply select the buffer tools, select DV1 to buffer, close down some applications, possibly even the toaster, open up Image Effects, and then send the buffer to Image Effects, process it, send it back to the buffer, and so on. We also have some other tools that control the buffer: to DV1, to DV2, to Toaster Paint, to 3D, clear, save, load, save as, and load as. So if we had something in the buffer that we needed to send back to DV1, we hit to DV1, to DV2, to Toaster Paint, etc. Clear asks you if you'd like to clear the buffer. Save will save the buffer to a specific location on your hard drive in the Crouton Tools drawer. For example, let's say you're going to lunch, you've worked on an image, you decide the power may go out, you decide you better save the image. Quickly hit save, it saves it to the Crouton Tools drawer. When you return from lunch, merely hit the load button and it will load it back in. Even if the power's gone out, you reboot the system back up, you saved it to a permanent location, we'll say. Save as will allow you to save the buffer to any location you choose on your hard drive. Load as will load any IFF file into the buffer so you can use it. Let's discuss one other important way to use the buffer. For example, let's say we needed to send the image that we had in Image Effects to, let's say, Image Master. Again, let's go to the Tool Selector, select Image Master, and from here, if we properly configured the Image Master program using the Configure section, we can select on Image Master and run that program. Okay, we'll move back to the toaster. And we can say whatever is in Image Effects, let's send to the buffer. So Image Effects to buffer. It moved to Image Effects. It's saving the buffer. Now let's take the buffer and send it to Image Master. So buffer to Image Master. Okay, we could perform some sort of function using Image Master, then easily move back to the Crouton Tools screen, say to buffer. It's now saving the image out of Image Master. And then we can merely go back up here and say buffer to Image Effects. And I think you can see in this way how it's easy to move image data back and forth by using the buffer. If during this particular graphics session we need to move back and forth from Image Effects to Image Master, again we can easily use the screen functions. Image Effects to screen brings us to Image Effects, back to Crouton Tools. Down here in the tool strip, Image Master screen moves us to Image Master, and we can move back to Crouton Tools, etc. After we're done processing our images back and forth, moving them back and forth between the toaster, Image Effects, and Image Master, let's say we wanted to save what we were working on in the buffer as a JPEG image. We'll come over to Image Effects and hit the Save Buffer button, which goes into Image Effects, loads the buffer, and then it will give us a save register where we can save it as any of the supported image formats. I'm going to say cancel, which will bring us back to Crouton Tools. If we just want to save the image that's in Image Effects, select the Save button. Again, we get the same save register. We can still save it as any format as we need to. I'm just going to select Cancel. Let's take a look at some automated controls that we have for Image Effects in these other pop-up menu strips. For example, Execute from Toaster. Under Image Effects, if I hold down with the left mouse, if we look under Image Effects, I have Grab to Image Effects. So if I select this, it says, is Image Effects running? Yes, it is. To use, move to your toaster and select the effect Crouton. So we'll say yes. If we move to the switcher, now, instead of performing an effect, when we select Execute Tool, it will actually grab an image and send it to Image Effects for you. So this is really handy because actually it will grab the image at the head of your edit for you. After it's grabbed and processed the image, it will then send it to Image Effects. Let's move back to Crouton Tools. Down in the next menu is Execute from Button or GPI Trigger, and we have the same function, Image Effects, Grab to Image Effects, and this will ask us, is Image Effects running? Do you have an edit controller or a joystick connected to the toaster's GIP trigger? Is the GPI trigger? Is the GPI trigger selected to on? In this case, we're going to say no, but this would allow you then to hold a joystick in your hand or connect an edit controller to this particular function, and again at the head of an edit or when you select the button in your finger, it will grab the image off tape, process it, send it into Image Effects for you. Okay, let's close down Image Master. I'll select Exit. And we'll quit. Okay, let's close down the Image Master tool strip by selecting on it again, Image Master, and it will close it down. Now, if I wanted to close down Image Effects, I could select the Image Effects Close button, but I'm going to leave it running for our next example. Let's select Add Pro and move to the Add Pro section of Images. You'll notice it's very similar to the image effects screen. We have a couple of extra buttons on here that are explained in your manual, but again, DV1, DV2, toaster paint, buffer control, add pro control, execute from toaster, execute from GPI control. But again, if we come down here and we open image effects, now we can operate the image effects program and the add pro program from the main add pro screen. This is the advantage of the tool selector tool strips, is you can make any program work with any other program. Speaking of tool strips, why don't we open up Toast Tools so we can display some more of our options. For example, under Toaster Tools, we have Exit Video Toaster, Exit CG, Exit Light Wave, Freeze an Image, Remove Motion, Grab an Image, Run the Get Small program, Load a Project, Load a Frame, and Save a Frame. Let's close down some of these other tool strips so we don't complicate the matter. And please, while you're working, only open the tool strips you need so that you can easily use the program. Let's close down Toast Buffer, Buffer Tools, and even for now, let's shut off Image Effects. Image Effects is still running, we've just closed down its tool strip. Okay, Load Frame and Save Frame work in unique ways compared to the switcher. If your hard drive is already selected to the right location and you want to load a frame, it may be faster to move to the switcher, find that particular frame, select on it, and load it. We'll select the Take button and we can see it. If your hard drive isn't selected properly for the frame store you want to load, for example, if you'd have to move to the switcher, move to Setup, then change the disk partition and find the file you're looking for, then it would be easier to use the Crouton Tools version. For example, Load Frame. It says this will first try to set your toaster to a valid volume and frame store drawer. We'll say OK. Select Volume. Look for your frame store drawer anywhere that you've got it located on any partition. Find the image that you want to load in. Select on it and hit OK, and it will load that particular file in. Again, I'll select Take so we can see we loaded that particular file in. Save Frame saves to the same partition that you have selected in your switcher. So in other words, if I select Save Frame, it says this will save the frame in your current toaster frame store drawer. We're going to say no. It will ask you for a number and a name and then save the frame for you. Project works similar to Load Frame. In other words, I can select Project. If I have multiple project drawers anywhere on my particular partitions, I can easily find them and say, no, that's not the one I want. Go to the other project drawer, and we'll say, yes, we'll load Crouton Tools Small Project in, and you'll see it flips to the toaster, loads that particular project in for us. Let's go to the switcher. You can see that the small project is loaded back in for us, and we'll switch back. Okay, there are other toaster tools that we can open using the tool selector. Let's pull down to Toast Miscellaneous or Toaster Miscellaneous. We have Start Toaster, Load Book, which loads a book into the CG directly using the same type of method as Project and Load Frame. Update Frame Store, update projects. Turn your GPI off, turn your GPI to positive, turn your GPI to negative. Delete any file. In other words, any file. It doesn't have to be a toaster file. Select Delete. It says this will delete any file you select. You will have another chance to say no. So we'll say yes. It opens up a file register. We can select a particular file and say OK, and it will delete that particular file. If we say Cancel, it will just bring us back to the Crouton Tools screen. Same thing with rename. We can rename any particular file. It says this will rename any file you want. You have a chance to say no again. We could pick a particular file. It's going to say enter a new name. We say no. Some other tools that directly affect the toaster are open the paint system, open CG and move to the switcher, and open the 3D. We'll use this for an example. Select on 3D, moves you to the toaster, opens the 3D section for you. We'll just move back. Let's select on Crouton Tools, and let's use the Exit Lightwave button to close down the 3D section for you. Let's say for some reason you had that running and you need to shut it down and you're in Crouton Tools. Here's an easy way to do that. Do you wish to exit Lightwave? We'll say yes. Goes to Lightwave and shuts it off and brings you back to Crouton Tools. For this next example, I'm going to have to load in a new project since we loaded in a small project. So I'm going to go to Project and load in a project off tape so that we don't take up tape time. I'll be right back. Okay, that particular project has been loaded in. Let's select our new toaster tool strip called Transitions, and you'll notice that sends a bank bus down here for us. Again, if you need to get into the CG or 3D, just select on Transitions again and that will come back for you. To select a transition and perform it, merely select on the wipe. Let's first make something go into a transition mode here. Select on the wipe bank that you want and the wipe number, then select Auto, and you will see the wipe perform. Now this is a rather slow, inaccurate way of performing transitions. This is made mostly as a convenience so you can go in and see how your transitions are going to look with your particular graphic applications, spinning titles on, locking to audio, etc., etc. If you're going to do a final edit, obviously move to the switcher so that you can perform that edit much more accurately and find your transitions much more easily. As a final example of using the image section with tool strips and the toaster, let's load up the single frame controller tool strip. Now I know we haven't talked about single frame controller, and we will in the VTR section, but for right now let's show how these tools can be used in combination. For example, let's say we were running AdPro. We needed to grab an image off tape. Using single frame controller software, we can put the tape in the machine, select play so that the tape's rolling by. When we see the image we want to freeze, merely reach up and hit the freeze button, and if we want to send it to AdPro, select DV1 to AdPro or DV2 to AdPro. It's that simple, all from one interface: play, freeze, and send. This is just one combination of many hundreds. Let's move on now through the images section so that we can move on to the next section, audio, by selecting Image Master, and you can see that we have an appropriate Image Master section. We have a Deluxe Paint section, which is quite a bit different. You want to study your manual for that. And we also have a Brilliance section, which is also different. You'll also want to study your manual for that. Brilliance and Deluxe Paint do not have AREX control. However, I've worked out a small, simple way of using the buffer to help you load and save these images. Also, Brilliance and Deluxe Paint do a great job in animating 2D animations, so I've given you a couple other functions so that you can add animations directly over video input 1, video input 2 of the toaster, and directly through the RGB buffer. Also, from Brilliance, you can easily move to AdPro, move the image to AdPro, process it, move it back to Brilliance, etc. Look for these things in your manual. Let's move on now to the audio section of Crouton Tools by selecting the audio button. Let's clean up our interface a little bit so it's easier to use. Let's select Transitions, and then let's select None. And this will remove all the tool strips from memory for us and clean up our interface. I'm going to move now to the 2000 computer where most of my audio equipment is stored. Okay, I'm on the 2000 computer now, and let's use our Studio 16 tools. Let's start up our Studio 16 program by selecting the Studio 16 icon. This will take us to Studio 16. Let's move ourselves back to Crouton Tools. To load a file to play back from Crouton Tools, let's select the Load button. And it says to load a stereo sample, select the left file in the first register and the right file in the second register. For mono, select the file in the first register only and cancel the second. So we'll say yes. This is going to be a stereo file. So I'll say, let's go to the right drawer. There's the left. There's the right. Okay, let's move up to the Start button and select Start. Select the Stop button and it stops. Here's a really easy way to start up Studio 16 files, whether they're mono or stereo, and time them to video. You can stop them very easy. You can also time them to timecode. By selecting this function, you type in the timecode number where you want the file to start, and Studio 16 will automatically play at that particular timecode number. This will also record automatically from tape. You tell it the timecode number you want it to start recording and where you want it to stop recording, and it will automatically grab and record the audio from your videotape or from your other sources. If we want to move to Studio 16, select the Studio 16 screen button. We can move back to Crouton Tools. Let's say we wanted to see our metering during playback. Well, let's select here. Let's move back to Studio 16 and we can open our meters. Okay, so you can easily see how if we have a piece of background music that we want to time to video, we can manually start it, or we can easily start it from a timecode point. But how would we start it if we need to do it automatically and we don't own timecode? Well, let's come down here to Execute from Toaster, and let's select on Studio 16 Play S16 Play S16. And it's going to ask us, is Studio 16 running? To use, move to your toaster and select the Execute tool. So we'll say yes. To load a stereo sample, select the left file, etc., etc. Let's go select the particular file that we want to cue from the toaster. Again, we'll use that same file as an example, and we'll make this a stereo. Okay, now, like it said, let's move back to the switcher, and instead of performing an effect, the next time we use the toaster, it will trigger this tool and start Studio 16. So let's say, for example, our tape's moving along, and all of a sudden we're ready for our audio to cue, and we hit the space bar. And that way we can also stop the music where we want to, especially if we needed to stop it before the end of our edit point. That's why it switches back to the Crouton Tools screen. So again, that was fairly easy to time audio exactly to a toaster edit. So instead of performing a transition, when you select Execute Tool, it will time the audio to start at the head of that edit. It's a pretty unique tool. For those of you who are using the GPI interface or who possibly want to start audio from a button, a handheld button, come down to Execute from Button GPI, and let's look at what we have under Studio 16, Play, Play Stop, and Record. So again, we could select Play, and it's asking us if an edit controller or a joystick is connected to our toaster and if the GPI is set to on. In this case, we're going to say no. But if we said yes, the next time that the GPI interface closed, it would start the audio for us. Again, another handy tool for starting Studio 16. Some other quick tools up here. Record helps us set up our record parameters. Gen turns on the gen lock so that we can key over video 1 or video 2 This is handy if we want to cue audio and we want to actually see what we're cueing to. You can cue Studio 16 tools directly over video. Makes it extremely handy. Let's close down Studio 16 for right now. And move back to Crouton Tools. Okay, let's work with the Bars and Pipes and Super Jam section of Crouton Tools Audio. First off, let's start Bars and Pipes Professional. Bars and Pipes is one of those programs that doesn't like to be started from AREX, so the program moves us to Workbench so we can start Bars and Pipes Professional traditionally. Okay, once we're in Bars and Pipes, let's close everything down and move back to Crouton Tools. Okay, from here we can, however, access Bars and Pipes by hitting the screen button, which will move us directly to Bars and Pipes. Okay, just similar to Studio 16, let's select the Load button, which will ask us to go in and load a particular file. This file must be a song file, either saved out of Bars and Pipes Professional or Super Jam. This one's really buried in there. Okay, when we select the Start button, same thing with the Stop button. If we move back here, we can see the track moving. And also see our mixer if we want to. Okay, we can also start Bars and Pipes Professional or Super Jam from a toaster edit, similar to Studio 16. Again, let's come down here, Super Jam, Bars and Pipes, play. We're going to say yes. Let's move back to the switcher. And again, it's Execute tool, so at the very next edit, the music starts, brings us back immediately to Crouton Tools. So if we need to manually stop that particular music before an edit is out or whatever, we can select out. These functions here are also very similar. If you need to key, for example, your mixer or your tracks over video as you're recording, you can use the Genlock and the key to key Bars and Pipes Professional or Super Jam over Video 1 or over Video 2. Super Jam works identically to Bars and Pipes Professional. In fact, they will work together at the same time, and these controls will control the two of them. Okay, let's now exit Bars and Pipes Professional. Okay, how would these programs work together with other programs using the tool strips? Well, for example, let's use AmiLink, which we'll get to in a minute, as an example. It's very simple to put our master deck, our record deck, select it, and put it in play, and visually watch our tape, and where we decide the music to start, we hit the Start button. We could also easily read the timecode number, type the timecode number in, and start our audio at a particular timecode number. But either way, it's easy to shuttle our tape around so that we can determine where we want to start our particular audio. The same thing is true with single frame controller. And eventually, the Pride system. Okay, I've connected ourselves back to the 4000 computer now so we can complete our demonstration. Let's move on to the VTR section. The VTR section defaults to single frame controller. And as you can see, we can start single frame controller, put the deck in play, stop, rewind, pause, fast forward. We can read the time code value, so we can use that in any particular operation. We can queue to a particular time code, and of course we can eject. To move to AmiLink, we move up to the top of the screen and we can select on AmiLink. And we have the same type of options in AmiLink. Start and move to AmiLink. Select our A deck, our B deck, our record deck. Mark our in and out points. Record, fast forward, play, etc. Perform a preview, perform an edit. Review and edit. Eject. And we have some shuttle movement, left and right shuttle, as well as read time code and go to in, go to out. Again, these are all extremely handy if, for example, we needed to freeze an image. Again, we'll open the toaster tools. You could put a deck in play, make sure you select the right input on the toaster. When you see the image that you want to grab, select the freeze button. Very easy, all from one interface. You can do the same thing with audio. Let's open the audio tool strip. And now we can time audio easily to our VTR, and we can do it from our VTR main screen. We can read a timecode value in, send timecode to Studio 16 and easily match that timecode value, etc. It also works with SuperJam and Bars and Pipes Professional. There are quite a few functions we haven't talked about in Crouton Tools. Please check into your manual. If you have any questions, search through your manual till you find that particular button and read up on it. Let's move now into the Utilities section of Crouton Tools. Crouton Tools Utilities will work with any particular file. It is a very simple utility that will allow you to copy files, move files, rename files, delete files, and find and load particular files. For example, let's select on the Toast button, and this will bring open buttons that we can select each one of the particular toaster drawers. For example, Frames, Images, your Project drawer, your Objects drawer is easily one button away. If you want to delete or move a particular file, a Framestore file, for example, if we wanted to rename this file, we select Rename and we can rename that particular file. Something that makes Crouton Utilities extremely easy is these white arrows tell you exactly what file it's going to work on. For example, if I'm going to copy a file, it's going to go from this location to this location. If I'm going to move a file, it's going to go from this location to this location. If I rename a file, since the arrow is over here, it's going to rename a file that we've selected over here. And if I'm going to delete a file, it will delete a file that I've selected over on this side. So it really only works in one direction. Copies over here, renames and deletes over here. Okay, to select a particular location, we have volumes. Once you select on a volume, then you can select on a drawer, so that you can move anything from any location to any other location. If you wanted to make a copy or rename in that same particular drawer, select on the blue arrow and it will move that particular device to the other window. Another thing I've done for us to make it easy on us that have loaded Framestores in more than one particular location, if you have Framestores located, let's say, on your DHO drive, you can select here. If they're on DH1, you can select here or DH2. So I can easily go from DH1 to DH2. I could also put DH2 over here, DH1 over here, and copy from DH1 to DH2. The same thing is true with images. If I have images drawers on different partitions, I can easily access those, and the same is true with objects. Let's select Tools and move on a little bit. Let's say I wanted to make a new drawer in a particular location. I can select on Make New Drawer. Type in the name of that drawer and it will make the drawer for me. If I wanted to do something fancy and create a drawer for each one of my 3D directories, I just merely need to type in a client's name. We'll type in Amico. It says, do you want to make a directory for images, scenes, previews, surfaces, motions, envelopes? Okay, so if we go back to Toast and we look at images, we'll now have a drawer in here called Amico. We'll have one also if we look under surfaces. If we look under objects, we'll find Amico, and in this way you can keep track of each particular Lightwave project on a client or project basis. That makes it really easy. We can read text files, so for example, if we wanted to move to the Rex drawer and read a particular Rex file, we can read that text file. We can run Quarterback from here, Quarterback Tools, and AmiBack, just so if you wanted to make a quick backup of something you're working on. You can also mount a GVP partition if you want to. You can find a particular file. Find is a little bit different. It helps you alphabetically find something. If you type in an A, it will bring you to the A. For example, if we type in V, it will move you down to the V section, and it will help you find a particular file alphabetically. We can also take an image. If we have a particular image, let's move to the image drawer, and we can move that image to the buffer. We can also move the image to Add Pro, to Image Master, or Image Effects. For example, let's select on Move this particular file to Image Effects. And it moved us to Image Effects and loaded that file in there for us. So we'll move back. We can also move images to DV1, DV2, and Toaster Paint. I've also given us access to Toaster Toolkit utilities, T-Rex Professional utilities, and Toaster Vision utilities, so you can find and load these instantly as you need them. For those of you who are used to working with SID, Diskmaster, or Directory Opus, I've given you load buttons for each one of those programs. Also, if you're a user of Shell and you're tired of fumbling around looking for a shell, just move to Crouton Tools Utility, select the Shell button. It will move you to Workbench and open a new shell for you. Okay, so you can see it's very easy to find a particular toaster location, copy that file, rename that file, move that file as you need to. You can also make directories, find directories, read text files, move and copy images to the buffer as well as to other programs. So Crouton Tools Utilities is extremely handy, and again, it's easy to move from the switcher to utilities so you can access any of those different operations as you need them. Let's move now into Crouton Tools Logger and move through that section. From this main Crouton Logger menu screen, we have three new options: Load Log, Make Log, and Demo Log. Let's select Load Log and load a book for us to work with. This will move us to the Crouton Tools Logger main screen. From here we can still access all Crouton Tools features from programs, images, VTR, audio, utilities, the workbench, and of course the switcher. Main control functions include New, Back, Next, Cut, Find, and Print. Let's select Next to move to the next logged entry. All of these elements have been logged from videotape. By selecting the Back button, we move back through the book. Keyboard equivalents include left and right arrow keys to go forward and back through the book, as well as up arrow to go to the first logged entry and down arrow to go to the last entry in the book. If we need to find a particular element by name, we can select on the Find button, which will allow us to find elements by name, project, client, subject, type, date, format, real number, in timecode number, and out timecode number. Let's select subject and type in Donna. This will bring us to the shot of Donna on her bike. Let's type in drummer. This will bring us to the shot of the drummer. To find out more about this particular element, let's select on the tape button. This will tell us more about the tape we logged this element from. It was a format of M2. It had audio on audio 1 and 2. And if we select on the selector button, we can find out even more about this particular element. Here's its in timecode number, as well as the source tape that it came from. If we head on description, we can find out an element description of this particular element that we've typed in. Great action shot could also be used for title or comp still. Let's select subject again. and type in 50s. This will bring us to the shot of the 50s singer, and you'll notice we have an out timecode number as well as an in timecode number for this particular element. As you can see, it's pretty easy to navigate yourself through a book. Why don't we move on now and create our own logbook? So we'll select log, which will move us back to the main log menu, and from here let's select make log. And for this particular example, I'm going to type in test. Logbooks can be located on any partition of your hard drive or any hard drive device. They can also be backed up to floppy disks, so they can be moved from computer to computer or from facility to facility. Let's log a relatively easy element. Let's log a frame store. So to do that, this requires Add Pro. So I'm going to hit my Tools function, and I would normally hit my Add Pro button in Release, which would run Add Pro. I currently have it running from our last example. We can also quit Add Pro by hitting ADP Exit. Add Pro is required for logging most graphic elements, but it is not required for logging elements from the video toaster. We are currently going to be working on an image effects version of the logger also. So for now, let's shut off Tools. Let's open the Selector functions. And from the Source Selector button, let's log a frame store. To do this, we select the Frame Store button. It said, would you like to log a frame store element? Is Add Pro running? And we're going to say yes. So we'll go find the frame store that we want to particularly log, and we'll grab the Kiki one. And you'll notice it moves into Add Pro. It will process the image and load it into the logger for us. Okay, now what did that do for us exactly? Well, it says the type is a frame store, and it located the particular element for us. It was on my hard drive HD2 in the frame store drawer. It's 101 frame store called Kiki. Okay, let's move on. We'll select New, and let's log another frame store. What makes logged elements so unique within Crouton Tools Logger is the fact that once an element is logged, you no longer have to remember what it's called or where it's located. So for example, why don't we move back to the last logged entry, which was our frame store here, and by selecting on this button, we change our function down here to chase or load file. Let's load this particular file. So we'll select frame store, and it says, would you like to load this frame store into the toaster? So if we say yes, it will take just a second here, and it will load that particular frame store into the toaster. If we move to our next element, we could also load that particular frame into the toaster by selecting frame store. And I'll quickly move back to the switcher, and we'll take Takes button, and you'll see that that is loaded in there. If we wanted to add more information about this particular frame store, we could select the Description button and type in an element description about this particular element. Let's create a new element. We'll select New. And let's this time log a graphic rather than a frame store. So we'll select Graphic. It said, would you like to log a graphic element? Is Add Pro running? And we'll say yes. And let's go find a graphic element. How about the wood from the light wave texture selection? And you now know that we have this loaded in here because you can see the image in the display window. We also have the location of this particular element in our file register. And again, if we wanted to load this particular element into the system, we can come back over here, select Graphic, and it will ask us if we'd like to load this image into DV1. Is Add Pro running? For right now, we'll just say no. Let's move on and make another element. So we'll select New. And let's also log a graphic element. And let's talk about graphic logging. Any image format that has been supported by AdPro will also work with the logger. This means that you don't necessarily always have to convert your JPEG files back to IFF files to load in the toaster. You can let Crouton Tools Logger do this for you. So it will support any graphic format again that AdPro uses. You don't need to do any conversion. Let Crouton Tools Logger do that for you. You can also easily move an image that you have from Crouton Tools Logger into the main temporary working buffer by selecting the Go to B key. And if you want to, this will copy this image file format into the working buffer. Let's move on now and log another element. So we'll say New. And this time, why don't we log a video toaster project? So let's select VT project. And it says, would you like to log a VT project element? No, PJ stands for project, BK stands for book, so we don't make a mistake there. We'll say yes. Select volume. Let's go to our projects. And we'll select Crouton Tools Small. Okay, now you'll notice instead of an image of the graphic or from videotape, we say Toaster Project in the window. This is so as you go through the book, you can easily determine the difference between logged elements. Now we can also load a project directly from Crouton Tools Logger into the toaster. So if you want to move into the logger and find a particular element, you can also load that. So again, we'll select this button, which is Chase Video or Load File. We'll come down to Video Toaster Project. It says, do you wish to load this project into the toaster? We're going to say yes. It will take us to the toaster and load that particular project into it. If we select the switcher button, it will move to the switcher, and as you can see, we've loaded the Crouton Tools Small project into the toaster. Let's move back. Okay, let's move on now and log another particular element. So we'll say New. Let's change this back to Source Select. And why don't we select a CG book this time? So would you like to log a CG element? CG books are located in your project drawer. Note, PJ stands for project, BK stands for book. So we'll say OK. We'll go to this project drawer this time. BK is a book. We'll select BK. And it says, do you want to load that book into the toaster so you can render a CG page for CG Logger? CG must be running. Right now we're going to say no. For now, it puts CG book into our display window. If we would have selected yes and rendered out a page out of the CG, it would select the first page that's in the CG and place that image in this book so it's easier, or in this window, so it's easier for you to find. We can also load CG books directly into the toaster. Let's select this button again, Chase Video Load File. And if we select the CG button, it says, do you wish to load this CG book into the toaster? The CG must be running. For now, we'll say no. So you can see it's easy to log your video toaster projects and books, find them with a quick visual reference, and load them directly into the toaster. Now, let's move on and log another element. This time, why don't we log a Lightwave animation scene? Would you like to log a Lightwave scene element? We'll say yes. And if we go into Toaster and into 3D, whoops. Go into Scenes, we can take one of these particular scenes and log it. Let's move on to a next item. This time, how about an audio file? Now, these pertain to Studio 16. So let's log a particular audio file. We'll select Audio. Would you like to log a Studio 16 element? For stereo, select left side only. So we'll say yes. Let's select this particular file and say OK. Now you'll notice that our display window says Audio File. So if we move back through our particular registers, we have an audio file, we have an anim file, we have a CG book, and a video toaster project. Our audio file can also be loaded back into Studio 16. Again, select this particular file or button, hit the audio button. Would you like to load this audio file into Studio 16? Obviously, Studio 16 must be running, so we'll say no at this point. Let's select New and move on. Now we can also log AREX files or sequence files. So we'll say yes, we'd like to log an AREX file. And we'll just grab any particular file. And it will note that particular location for us. And if we want to, again, we can select this button. And it says, would you like to run your AREX script? So you can directly find your AREX or sequence files, load them directly, and fire them easily from Logger. Now let's move on and create a MIDI one. Would you like to log a song file? We'll say yes. We'll say that particular file is it. And this gives us a MIDI file. If we were to select this button again and select on MIDI this time, it said, would you like to load this song file into Bars and Pipes Professional or Super Jam? We'll say no. And this way it gives me a chance to audition my sound files, my audio files, my digital audio files, my AREX scripts easily from the logger. Let's move on now and log some elements directly from videotape. So let's select New. Put this back to Source Select. And this time we're going to need some tools. I'm first going to log some elements from Single Frame Controller using a VTR connected to Single Frame Controller. So let's open our Tools function again, select SFC, which brings open some more tools for us to use, and we'll close down our Tools section. Let's open up our Tape section because we're logging from tape. I guess the first thing we should probably do is start our Single Frame Controller software. So let's move down to the tool strip and select SFC. This should start up Single Frame Controller for us. We'll select Use and move back to the logging system. The next thing we'd want to do is tell our toaster what input we're going to be using, and for this example we'll just select input 1. You'll see it move to the toaster and select those inputs for us. Okay, since we're logging at videotape element, let's select the videotape button. It's asking us if AdPro is running and we're using the right selections. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll say yes. And it's saying, are you using a new source tape or CT logger source? Well, actually, it's really CT logger source because that's the last tape we logged from. It saves that for us, but for this example, we'll say new source tape. So we'll select new source tape, and we'll type in CT logger source tape. Okay, you'll notice it put the name of that particular tape in there. If you had a location for that tape, you might as well type that in there too, like bin 11 or shelf so-and-so, so that you can easily find those tapes later. Okay, now let's put our single frame controller into play, and I will be able to see the video go by because I'm watching my preview monitor. You, unfortunately, since we only have one monitor available for you, will be able to see this screen. So I'm going to select an image and I'm going to freeze it. It grabs that image into the toaster for me, and now I'm going to hit the grab button to grab it and bring it into the system. And it'll say, did you first select an input using the toast button, which we did. Did you freeze the image you want to use using the freeze button, which we did. And we'll say OK. Now the toaster is processing the image, and on the everyday average machine it's about 20 to 30 seconds to process. Then it will move it into Art Department Professional and then into our logger program. Okay, there we are. Okay, now that was a real simple way of logging an element. Let's put our VTR in stop. Okay, we put our VTR in play, we froze the image using the freeze button, and we grabbed it into the system. But since Single Frame Controller is a more automated system, we can use it to automate the logging process a little bit more for us. Let's hit the play button. And now let's hit the select in button, and you'll notice it put the timecode number where I selected at the in. Let's select out. It'll put the timecode number that I selected out in the out register. And now let's hit log. And you can't see it, but the VTR is backing up. Now we're moving to the toaster. The VTR is going forward, and we'll grab the image right where I selected it. And now it will load that particular image in for us. Okay, what I can see that you can't see it is now backing the VTR up to our start point, so we don't just have our tape play by and we miss any other parts that we want to log. It will back up to our start point so we can start exactly from where we left off. Okay, some other options that we may want to discuss besides using the in, out, and log buttons is the GPI button. GPI allows us, we'll select it, it says, is a joystick connected to your toaster? Is your toaster's GPI set to on? We're going to say no, but if we had a joystick in our hand and we were watching the source go by, when we selected the GPI button, it would grab the image for us and log it. The next function over, SFC, grabs just an in point and automatically starts the logging process. This is in those kind of cases where we don't necessarily need to log an out point. We can just grab the head frame and log it immediately with one button process. The next button over, match timecode, matches a timecode number that's been entered in the timecode, finds that particular frame, and logs it for us. And this is handy if we're working off a list or we want to go back in and re-grab a frame if we need to. Let's say you have a list of edits that you're working with. You want to log them so you can easily find them and load them into your editor at that particular point. Type the number in here, hit match timecode. It will ask you if that particular source tape is in the machine. We're going to say no at this point. If it is, it will shuttle to that particular point and grab the image for you. Really handy. Okay, just like we can load elements that we've logged into the toaster and into other programs from Crouton Tools Logger, we can also find elements on tape. Let's move back through our logbook a little bit. And let's say we were visually looking for that element, or we used the find button to type in a word search to find it. And we want to shuttle our tape to this particular frame. Well, let's select the Chase Video Load File button. And since we're using single frame controller software, let's select SFC. It will ask us if this particular tape is in the machine. If it is yes, it will shuttle that tape to that particular location for us and park it. Okay, these buttons up here move us to the out point. So on this particular tape, if we want to go to the out location, we'll hit the SFC button. Again, it will ask us if that tape is really in the machine. We'll say yes. And what you can't see that I'm seeing now is it's taking us to the out point and parking the machine for us. Okay, that's enough for SFC. Let's change our tools a little bit. So what I need to do right now is use Workbench to move back through the programs we have running to shut down Personal SFC because it doesn't shut down through AREX. I have to shut it down manually. Let's move back to Crouton Tools Logger. And now let's use AmiLink. So let me open my tools. Let's shut off SFC, open up AmiLink's tool strips, and close off our tools. Since AmiLink takes quite a while to load in, I'm going to do that off tape. And you should also make note that this says AmiLink screen. AmiLink does not like to be run from AREX. It generally likes to be started from Workbench. So I'll go back off tape and we'll load up AmiLink. Okay, now that AmiLink is running, I'll use the AmiLink screen button to move ourselves to AmiLink. We can use the VT button to move us to the toaster. We can use the Crouton Tools button to move ourselves back to Logger. So you can get through those programs easily with one button. You'll notice we also have some new features. We have Grab, AmiLink, and Match Timecode, as well as In, Out, and Log. Okay, let's select New. And Videotape Source. And we can select our A machine, put it in play, and again we could freeze an image and then grab it into the system as a way to log it. Using AmiLink we can also say, here's our in point, which selects an in point for us, here's our out point, and then we can back up our machine and freeze the image at that in point and grab it into the system. Now, if you own Studio 16 software and hardware, you can automate the process. Let's stop the machine. You can automate the process even further. So let's load that software up. Let's shut off AmiLink. Let's select the Studio 16 tools. Let's run the Studio 16 software. And while this is loading in, it's necessary at this point, if you had timecode coming from your master machine, to be connected to your source machine. In other words, you have to run timecode from your source machine to Studio 16. Okay, now since we've got that created, why don't we shut off Studio 16, AmiLink, shut off our tools. Now, let's say log, which will log at this particular element for us. So we'll say log. And AmiLink requests that when the VTR has stopped, we select OK. VTR is rolling. OK. Now let's select New. And video source, logger. Okay, and a good way to keep AmiLink calculating accurately all day using the logging is to make sure that there's an in point in the record machine. Even one frame will do. If you've been editing all day, obviously there are plenty of in points that are already there. We'll move back. And another way we could log would be to select the AmiLink button. We could start up the VTR, select the AmiLink button. When we let go, it would select an in point for us and start the logging procedure up for us with just one button. Kind of a trick that you can use, however, is put the VTR in play, and when you see an in point, select in, see an out point, select out, then select New. When you see the next in point you want, select in, then select out, then select New. Okay, then if we go back through the logbook, we can easily select the Match Timecode button and grab this image and process it for the logger. So this would make it really easy if you're in a hurry, like with a client, to log an entire tape quickly without going through the process of grabbing each frame. You can mark your in point and your out point, move on to the next, and all the way through the tape. When the client's not there and you have time to do it, of course you should charge him for it. Go back in and log each element so that you can find it during your next edit session. Now I'm going to stop tape right now and go in and process each one of these ones we selected so we have those images to work with. Okay, I went back and I used the Match Timecode button to go in and grab the images we had selected. If you notice, there's something missing from each one of these, and that is the name of the source tape. So if we went back later to try to find this, it would be missing. Now if we've used the same source tape like we have been throughout this whole process, there's an easy way to add that in there again without having to type it in or remember what it is. Hit the equals button, And it will ask you, do you wish to copy the tape name and or location of the last logged element to this element? And we'll say yes, and that'll copy that in there for us. So we'll move to the next one, and we can copy it in there too. Okay, let's discuss some other sections of Crouton Tools Logger. Let's select the New button. And for example, if we selected Load, it would bring us to AdPro and ask us to select a file to load. We're going to say forget it at this point. But that would allow us to bring in any image into the display window that we want to. Also, buffer, would you like to log an image that's in the working buffer? So for example, let's say you've been working on something in Toaster Paint, you move it to the image, to the working buffer, and you move into Logger, and you can put it in the display window if you need to. View would allow us to view the last logged viewed image, which was the guitar player. Now there's a reason that we can do that. Same with paste. We'll say paste. Do you wish to paste the last logged image into the display window? We'll say yes. And it will load the guitar player in here. Now if we come down and we select Sketch, it says, do you wish to use the sketch operations? Clear the sketch operations by selecting the tile pattern at the bottom of the screen, which is down here. We're going to say yes. Now we get a small, simple paint program. So for example, and you'll have to excuse how it changes the display, but this is to remind us that all the other features should be locked off. This will allow us to paint on our particular image for, like, say, storyboarding or building a story pattern that you're going to use, or showing camera movement. For example, if you wanted to show that the camera is moving up on this particular one, you could get in here and draw an arrow on the image to show that the camera motion was up. You could also use this for great storyboarding. You could load in an image that, say, you sketched in Deluxe Paint or maybe Brilliance, or that you could even sketch in here directly of some of the things that you would like to produce or that you would like to shoot, put them in order, and print them out and use them as a storyboard. We don't have much time on this tape to get more into the sketch features. I just wanted to show you that they're there. Again, to get rid of the sketch features, we'll select on the tile pattern down here. You notice it left my arrow there. Okay, let's move on to New. Okay, let's go back through our book. I'm going to go to the first logged entry, which was our frame store. And as we move up through these, we can see that we had frame stores, graphics, toaster projects, CG books, anim files, audio files, AREX files, MIDI files, and elements from tape. Now, as you remember, we logged this particular element here of Little Red Riding Hood using single frame controller. We're now using AmiLink, but a unique feature of Crouton Tools Logger is the fact that even though you may have logged it on single frame controller or even the Pride system, if you bring the log material, the videotape and the disc, to another production company that's, say, using AmiLink, then you can use AmiLink to also find and shuttle to those points. So for example, if I select on this, which brings us to Chase Video Load File, and I select on the AmiLink button, it will ask me if that source tape's in the machine, and if I said yes, it would shuttle us to that point. Not only that, in AmiLink, if I move back to AmiLink, and they're not going to be loaded in here because I said no, but it would load in the in point and the out point for you of that particular shot. So if you went to find a shot, selected that shot, told Crouton Tools Logger to find it for you, it not only finds it, it loads those timecode numbers in there for you. Now, of course, you may have to trim them when you do your editing, but at least most of your work is done for you. Now let's move back. Crouton Tools Logger will only log using AmiLink from the A machine, but it will find sources on the B machine and also the record machine. So if you're looking for B material that you've logged in, put it in the tape, hit the B button, you can still select AmiLink and it'll find that particular shot and add the in points and out points for you from the B machine into your edit controller. Okay, we've talked enough about AmiLink and single frame controller. Pride will also work the same as soon as we release that version, which will be fairly soon. Let's move back to AmiLink, and let's quit the program. Now let's select on our tool selector, shut off the AmiLink tool strip. We're still using Studio 16 right now, and it's still running. So let's select on its tool strip, and we'll talk more about it. Shut off our tools functions. Now, any of you who use or own Studio 16 and have access to a machine that will give you a timecode, or if you're using timecode window dubs or anything that will give you a timecode output, Studio 16 is a great way to log images and get an accurate image from that particular system. I'm going to run some tape by now, and we'll use Studio 16 to log a few examples. Okay, the VTR is rolling, and let's select the last entry, which I believe is a new entry, yes. And if, again, we could freeze an image and grab it into the system, or we can select in, which gives us the in point. Now, again, timecode is coming from our VTR and going into the Studio 16. We can select out, which will give us an out point. And if we selected log at this point, it's going to say, please back up the VTR at least 10 seconds before the in point or the log point. Then put the VTR in play for a second or two before selecting OK. And it's reminding us what our in point is. So I'm going to back the VTR up and then select OK. Okay, to save time on the tape, I just let that process off the tape. But you can see how Studio 16 can work. We can also do the same function where the tape's rolling and we hit this button and it puts in the in point and then starts the logging procedure for us. And again, obviously, we can shuttle to these particular things using single frame controller, AmiLink, or the Pride system. But if you're using a timecode accurate deck, you probably are using a timecode accurate editing machine, editing controller, so it is really easy to use that to help you shuttle to this particular point. If you're not using AmiLink or single frame controller, just merely type this number in as your in point and hit the go-to key on your edit controller if you're using a Sony or a Paltex or something like that. And you can shuttle back to these points really easy and also find these in and out points. Okay, let's move to Studio 16. Now, also remember that these buttons here are not to start your VTR. These are to play back an audio file that you're auditioning using the logger program. Okay, let's move to Studio 16 screen, and we'll quit Studio 16. Let's open up our tools, close down Studio 16, and let's open our GPI and button control tool and close our tools. Okay, this system is primarily for people who are using the GPI toaster interface control with your editing controller, or who can just use a manual joystick button. If you're using a GPI trigger, you're probably used to triggering an edit using the toaster. This is very similar. Mark an in point, mark an out point, put a dummy tape in your machine, and do a preview. At the head of that particular edit, after you push the GPI button here, it will process the image for you and load it into the display window. If you're using timecode, this can also be extremely accurate. Use the timecode in point number and out point number that you've selected logging your tape using your edit controller and type those numbers into here. Then basically use, again, a preview on a dummy tape to go in and select the GPI interface. If you're not using timecode, you can use the same method, but back up your source tapes till they hit the end, and then you use a reference point to select the counter at 0 as they go by. Don't let it back up to the end and use that because that's inaccurate. Wait till you see a visual reference point go by. Type those numbers into the timecode locations and use the GPI button to trigger that particular thing at the head of an edit, and this will log your tape accurately. The GPI is an accurate way to do toaster editing. It's also an accurate way to capture images for the logger. If you're using timecode and you've logged an image and you want to shuttle and find it, it's fairly easy to type these numbers into your edit controller manually, hit the go-to button, and shuttle to it. If you're using a non-timecode edit controller, again, back your tapes up to 0. Find a visual reference point to start your counter at. If you can, in your edit controller, type these numbers in and go to them. If you can't, merely shuttle up to the counter number and use these. They'll still save you an immense amount of time in your editing process. Okay, let's move on to even a simpler system. Let's shut off our GPI tools. And from here, you'll notice that we just have grab and motion. Now this could be for a lone VTR system with no time code. You don't own Studio 16. You have no way of referencing it. Again, back your tape up to 0. Find a reference point. Put your counter to 0. As you see the image go by that you want, freeze it. Note the number on your counter at that point where you froze the image. Type it in here. Hit the grab button. Let it process. When you need to shuttle to that particular point again to find that element, again you'll need to back your tape up to 0. Hit 0 at the reference point. Manually shuttle up to that number, and it will still save you an immense amount of time in editing. This is really an easy method to use. We've gone over each one of these methods very rapidly, and we haven't shown all of the options. There's many options to each one of the methods for grabbing images. You may want to study your system and read the manual thoroughly to decide which one of these is best for you to use. At this point, why don't we close down our tape section and our description section and move through our logger. I should mention that you should use the logger wisely in that you should assign each book to a project or to a client and only log those elements that are particularly relevant to that particular project or client, so you don't create these huge log books that are then hard to search through. Remember that you can easily find any element. Let's go to type in VT for Video Toaster Project, and easily load that directly right into the toaster. Let's go Frame Store, FS. Take us to the closest frame store. Let's load that frame store into the toaster. Type in Studio for Studio 16. Would you like to load this audio file into Studio 16? So after you load any element into the system, you can easily select Switcher, move to the switcher, perform your edit, move back to the logger, and load your next element. Okay, let's select Log. This is just the beginning for Crouton Tools Logger. We have many new and exciting modules planned or in the works that work directly with elements you've logged using Crouton Tools Logger. The first of these is called Canvas. Canvas takes all of the data and all of the images that you've logged in all of your logbooks using Crouton Tools Logger and creates postage stamp sized images where you can see up to 30 elements on each screen. Then you can click on each one of these elements and load it, shuttle to it, just as you did out of Crouton Tools Logger. Crouton Tools Logger is required, however, to capture all the information needed for Crouton Tools Canvas. The next one of these modules is a timeline editing module that will also use these images and the data you've collected using Crouton Tools Logger. A storyboarding module, a 3D object database module, which will also show you each one of your 3D objects in a visual database, a print module, and a mixing module for audio purposes. Please turn in your registration disc and your registration card so you can keep up on all the new and many changes coming out of DevWare and out of Atomic Toaster Catalog. We appreciate your purchase of Crouton Tools. Thank you very much.